The inclination often emerges subtly. One rarely recalls the precise instant it took hold. Instead, a pervasive understanding developed between early life and the present. Inner calm was a prize to be earned, affection came with conditions, and love was a recompense for good conduct, not an inherent birthright. Perhaps it stemmed from the disapproving gaze of a father when a child spoke out of turn, or a mother's chilling silence when expectations were unmet. The specific rules remained obscure, but the repercussions were distinctly felt. Each time an action caused their displeasure, a scowl, a heavy breath, a withdrawn demeanor, a profound internal plummet occurred. A silent vow was made. Never again. This marks the origin of the tendency to appease others. It's a behavioral language learned even before words are fully understood, springing not from kindness or generosity, but from a fundamental drive for survival. When your sense of security, belonging, and self-worth become intertwined with the happiness of those around you, you begin to perceive maintaining harmony as your primary responsibility. You may feel it's your role to lighten the atmosphere, to fill quiet gaps, to ensure everything appears fine, even when it isn't. And this is the poignant truth. People-pleasing frequently originates as a child's coping mechanism to secure love. Most individuals assume that those who appease are simply amiable, overly generous, or perhaps excessively empathetic. However, the underlying reality is different. At their core, those who engage in appeasement are gripped by fear, a fear that a refusal will lead to a loss of affection. A fear that causing disappointment will result in abandonment. Consequently, they contort themselves into versions unrecognizable to their true selves. They force smiles when angered, agree when utterly fatigued, and offer apologies for actions they didn't commit. Each instance of this behavior drives them further from their authentic selves. You might not consciously grasp it, but your nervous system retains these early lessons. Every reprimand that taught you to remain quiet, every dispute that implied emotions were perilous, every unspoken directive to be easygoing, serene, and submissive. These were not mere isolated events. They were foundational blueprints the human brain develops through associative learning. In youth, your brain links safety with whatever prevents punishment or rejection. So, if being good meant staying silent, that was your course of action. If being useful entailed prioritizing everyone else's needs over your own, that is the identity you adopted. Over time, your sense of self morphs into a reflection of external expectations. This is the true nature of appeasing behavior, not an inherent defect, but a survival strategy that has persisted beyond its original context. However, a significant issue arises. As you mature, this ingrained mechanism doesn't cease operating. Despite no longer being that defenseless child, your body retains the learned responses. It still reacts as if punishment awaits if someone is displeased. It continues to be overwhelmed with anxiety at the mere thought of someone being disappointed in you. And so, the performance continues. The smiles, the agreements, driven by an enduring belief deep within that your security depends on it. Consider how often you assent when your true inclination is to refuse. Reflect on how frequently you agree simply to avert potential conflict. How often do you excessively scrutinize others' opinions of you, mentally replaying past conversations, searching for any misstep? This isn't a display of weakness, it's the outcome of profound conditioning. For many, this pattern begins with emotionally distant parents, guardians who are unpredictable, inconsistent, or emotionally detached. One day they might be loving, the next, cold. In one moment, they express pride. In the next, disappointment. Consequently, you learn to constantly monitor their moods, much like a radar, anticipating emotional turbulence before it fully manifests. You start to calibrate your conduct based on their reactions, analyzing every vocal nuance, every sigh, every facial expression, as it becomes your means of surviving within that household. Gradually, you transform into someone else, quieter, more compliant, someone who avoids causing any disruption. You remain largely unaware of this transformation. You simply internalize that your emotions are inconvenient, your needs are excessive, and your boundaries cause people to withdraw. So, you suppress them, opting instead to smile, to fix situations, to tell jokes. You embody the role of the peacekeeper, the individual cherished by all because you never create discomfort. Yet internally, you are exhausted, as one can only hold their breath for so long before the pain sets in. The most sorrowful aspect is that many who appease others mistake their profound fatigue for genuine kindness. They might declare, "I simply care too much," or "I dislike conflict." But beneath these sentiments lies fear, the dread that if you cease giving, no one will remain. Psychologists refer to this as fawning, a trauma response akin to fight, flight, or freeze. When confronted with a perceived threat or disapproval, instead of defending yourself or retreating, you attempt to appease. You utter whatever maintains peace, striving to make others happy to mitigate your own sense of insecurity. It's not that you consciously wish to betray your authentic self, rather, your body has not learned an alternative response. Over time, this ingrained habit pervades all aspects of life, your work, your intimate relationships, even your friendships. You become the dependable one, the go-to person for everyone, the one who resolves all issues except their own. You operate under the assumption that if you are sufficiently good, calm, and accommodating, your inherent worth will finally be recognized. However, instead of recognition, what often occurs is expectation. Others cease viewing it as kindness and begin to perceive it as your established role. You become indistinct, concealed behind your own excessive politeness. Yet, what most fail to grasp is that being an appeaser doesn't genuinely inspire love. It merely cultivates comfort. And there is a distinct difference. Comfort is transient. Love is unconditional. When you dedicate your life to fulfilling everyone else's perceived needs, you deny them the opportunity to truly love who you are. How can they cherish you if your authentic self is never revealed? This explains why many who please others experience profound loneliness, even when surrounded by people. They continuously give in the hope that reciprocity will one day occur. But affection born from mere compliance is not genuine love. It is control in disguise. So, what steps can be taken? Firstly, you must unlearn the lessons imparted by your childhood. This is no simple task. It necessitates confronting the uncomfortable truth that perhaps your parents' understanding of love was not entirely accurate. Perhaps their definition of good was merely quiet. Perhaps their notion of respect was simply obedience. It is important to acknowledge that our parents rarely intend to cause harm. Many were navigating life to the best of their abilities with the knowledge they possessed. Yet, pain does not dissipate merely because it was unintentional. You can forgive them while still recognizing the impact their actions had on you. Because pretending it didn't matter is precisely how the pattern of people-pleasing endures. Each time you silence your own voice to ensure another's comfort, you reinforce the narrative your childhood imprinted upon you. You tell yourself, "My needs are inconsequential. My truth is unwelcome. My inner peace is not my own." But what if you began to craft a different narrative? What if you ceased apologizing for simply E? The truth is, expressing a refusal is not cruel. Establishing boundaries is not selfish. Disappointing others is not a failure. It is an act of honesty. It represents personal growth. It is the journey of reclaiming your authentic self. Because here's the crucial insight no one shares. You don't acquire love through appeasement. You cultivate love through authenticity. The more you pursue external validation, the more it eludes you. Yet, the moment you cease performing, when you finally allow others to witness your imperfections, your limitations, your genuine self, that is when true connection blossoms. Naturally, this prospect is daunting. If your entire existence has been constructed around ensuring others' happiness, embracing authenticity feels perilous. It's akin to venturing into a tempest without shelter. The urge to revert to old habits will be strong. You'll want to apologize for simply being yourself. But remember, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to act despite it. Each time you assert a boundary and endure, your nervous system internalizes that you are safe. Each time you share an honest truth and someone remains, you challenge your brain's ingrained assumptions. You begin to redefine what love truly signifies. And incrementally, you start to grasp that love is not something to be won. It is something to be built upon a foundation of honesty, respect, and clear boundaries. Your purpose is not to ensure everyone else's happiness. Your purpose is to achieve wholeness. However, the path to healing doesn't commence with refusing others. It begins with affirming yourself, saying yes to rest, yes to honesty, yes to imperfection, yes to your own tranquility. Because when you release the burden of managing everyone else's emotions, you finally create the space to experience your own. And in that space, you rediscover yourself. Beneath the protective masks, the compliant behaviors, and the years spent pretending everything was fine, you encounter the version of yourself that existed prior to fear. The self that felt no compulsion to perform, the self that simply was. This is the version of you that merits leadership now. Yet, here is a powerful realization. Being an appeaser doesn't signify brokenness. It indicates that you possess the wisdom to survive circumstances that demanded self-effacement. It means you cultivated empathy amidst chaos and gentleness amidst turmoil. You developed emotional intelligence out of a necessity to interpret people to ensure your safety. This sensitivity is not a weakness, it is a remarkable strength. The objective is not to extinguish your inherent kindness, but to liberate it from the grip of fear. Genuine kindness is not about preserving peace at your own expense. It is about presenting your full, authentic self, even if it might cause others slight discomfort. It's about giving, not from an apprehension of losing love, but from an abundance of already possessing it. And this fundamental shift transforms everything. You begin to discern the distinction between authentic connection and forced compliance. You start to experience the quiet strength that emanates from a thoughtfully established boundary. You begin to understand that articulating a no isn't a rejection, it's a redirection. It steers you back toward what genuinely matters. Recovering from the habit of people-pleasing is akin to teaching your body a new language, one where security stems from truth, not external approval. It will feel awkward initially. You will stumble. You will over-explain. You will experience guilt for establishing even the most minor boundaries. But persist. Each uncomfortable no contributes to the foundation of a more authentic yes. Because the fundamental inquiry is not, how can I make them like me? But rather, can I like myself when they don't? And when you can confidently answer yes to that, you achieve true liberation. This journey seamlessly transitions into how early life conditioning profoundly influences adult relationships and the means to finally break free from cycles of emotional dependence and reclaim one's identity. The most challenging aspect of overcoming the urge to please isn't establishing boundaries. It's confronting the silence that invariably follows. Because when a lifetime has been dedicated to fulfilling others' needs, the moment you cease, people will inevitably notice. They will withdraw, they will question. Some may even express anger, and this hurts profoundly because you had believed that love was reciprocal, truly unconditional. In reality, it was contingent upon your compliance. This is often the point where many who appease relapse. The burden of guilt becomes unbearable. Fear resurfaces. You might begin to question, perhaps I am being selfish. But you are not. You are simply no longer fueling a system that thrived on your self-erasure. You are not flawed for desiring to be seen. You are simply accustomed to invisibility. And that is why the initial phase of healing involves grief. Grieving the love you never genuinely received. Grieving a childhood where peace had to be earned. Grieving the relationships that persisted solely because you bore their weight. Because to cease pleasing others, you must acknowledge a painful truth. You were conditioned to believe your needs were a burden. This belief does not dissipate overnight. It lingers in subtle moments, in the way you apologize for no transgression, in the way you minimize your accomplishments to avoid making others uneasy, in the way you offer excessive explanations when a simple no would suffice. These habits may appear innocuous, but they are symptoms of a profound misapprehension concerning love and personal worth. You internalized that love was a commodity purchased through good behavior, and safety was earned by never causing inconvenience. Thus, you became a master of adaptation, a chameleon capable of conforming to anyone's expectations. However, When constantly adapting, you eventually lose sight of who you were before you began to bend. This is why those who please others frequently feel lost when confronted with straightforward questions like, "What do you want?" or "What do you need?" For years, the answer was never about you. It was always about the person in front of you. You became proficient in interpreting everyone else's emotions to the detriment of your own. And this is not your fault. Consider that during your formative years, your parents represented your entire world. You relied on them for everything: sustenance, shelter, affection, security. Therefore, if love felt inconsistent or conditional, your developing brain didn't question them. It questioned you. Children do not conceive, "My parents are emotionally unavailable." They conclude, "I must not be good enough." And so begins the lifelong endeavor of validating your own worth. You strive to be the flawless student, the ideal friend, the perfect partner. You believe that if only you execute everything correctly, no one will ever depart. But what you are truly attempting to mend is an ancient wound, the one that whispers, "You are only worthy of love when you are useful." This wound becomes the very bedrock of your identity. You begin to equate peace with control. You become hyper-vigilant of others' moods because unpredictability once signified danger. You can detect tension before it is spoken, stepping in to smooth things over before anyone even asks. You label this empathy, but deep down, it is perpetual watchfulness. It's your nervous system asserting, "If I can keep everyone content, I will remain safe." But a sense of security built upon suppression is not true safety. It is self-abandonment, and this is why those who appease frequently experience anxiety even when nothing appears amiss. The body distrusts stillness because peace feels unfamiliar. Your brain constantly seeks and you yearn for love, yet simultaneously fear it. Because authentic love demands honesty. It necessitates boundaries. It requires you to fully present yourself, something you've been taught is dangerous. So even when someone endeavors to love you for who you genuinely are, you instinctively recoil, apprehensive that if they see too much, they will inevitably leave. Thus, the performance persists. You continue to appease, you continue to feign. And gradually, your relationships acquire a hollow quality, not due to a lack of care from others, but because your true self is not actually present, only the version of you they anticipate. This is the concealed toll of pleasing others. You lose connection not only with others, but with yourself. And without that vital connection, life begins to feel flat and uninspired. You might find yourself surrounded by people, yet none truly perceive you. You might receive praise for your understanding, selflessness, and kindness, but deep down you feel unseen, unheard, unloved. For how can anyone love your true self if your true self is never permitted to surface? So, how does one begin to alter something so profoundly ingrained? You commence by understanding the difference between genuine kindness and mere compliance. Kindness emanates from conscious choice. Compliance stems from fear. When your actions are rooted in kindness, they nourish you. You experience a sense of expansion, groundedness, and inner peace. However, when your actions are driven by fear of disappointing someone, fear of being misunderstood, they deplete you. You conclude interactions feeling diminished. That is the moment to pause and interrogate yourself. Am I doing this because I genuinely desire to, or because I am afraid not to? That single question holds the power to transform your life. It assists you in recognizing instances where you have relinquished your personal power, not out of affection, but out of an apprehension of losing it. And once this pattern becomes discernible, you can initiate the process of rewriting it. Healing from the tendency to please others does not equate to becoming aloof or self-centered. It signifies establishing equilibrium. It means recognizing that your emotions too are valid and important, that your comfort, your time, your peace all warrant the same respect you extend to others. You can possess deep care and still maintain boundaries. You can be kind and still articulate a no. You can love individuals without shouldering the burden of their happiness. Yet, here lies the challenging aspect. When you first begin to set boundaries, it will not feel empowering. It will feel incorrect. It will feel as though you are violating unwritten rules. This is because your body associates boundaries with potential rejection. But that is merely the old narrative playing out. Continue practicing regardless. Each no you utter teaches your body that honesty does not fracture connections, it defines them. You will observe that some relationships inevitably diminish. This is acceptable. They were founded upon conditions that your evolving self can no longer sustain. However, those relationships that endure your honesty, these are the ones worth preserving, for they are built upon truth, not performance. Over time, a beautiful realization will emerge. Peace no longer feels like a void. Stillness no longer appears dangerous. You cease apologizing for your existence. You no longer require everyone's approval. Instead, you begin to appreciate yourself. And that is when everything undergoes a profound transformation. You see, the impulse to please others was never truly about other people. It was about your inner child striving for safety. Therefore, the authentic work is not about persuading others to love you differently. It is about learning to love yourself in the manner you always needed. This entails reparenting yourself, becoming the mature adult that your younger self desperately required. Someone who affirms that love is not something you must earn. You already embody it. You can commence with small steps. The next time you experience guilt for uttering no, remind yourself that this discomfort is a sign of growth. The next time someone reacts negatively to your boundary, remember that their response does not dictate your inherent worth. The next time you find yourself over-explaining, pause mid-sentence and take a deliberate breath. You are not obligated to offer the world justifications for your existence. This is how you gradually reclaim your life, one moment of self-honesty at a time. And ultimately, you will arrive at this understanding. Peace is not discovered in attempting to keep everyone content. Peace is found in being authentic, even when that authenticity creates ripples. You were not brought into being to be agreeable. You were born to be whole. Your parents might have instructed you to suppress your feelings to avert conflict. They might have instilled the belief that well-behaved children do not challenge, that silence equates to strength, that self-sacrifice is a form of love. But you are no longer a child. You are now empowered to make different choices. You can choose honesty over superficial harmony, truth over external approval, love over fear. Because the instant you cease trying to be who others needed you to be, you finally become the person you were destined to be. And a miraculous phenomenon occurs when you do. The right people begin to find you. Those who cherish you, not for your accommodating nature, but for your genuine self. Those who do not demand that you diminish yourself for their comfort. Those who can embrace your truth, your depth, your boundaries. This is what authentic love embodies. It is not fragile. It does not necessitate pretense. It flourishes in the fertile ground of mutual respect. But to experience it, you must allow the old paradigm of love, the one taught to you in childhood, to perish. You must release the compulsive need to be liked by everyone. You must accept that not everyone will comprehend your transformation. Some will label you distant. Some will call you cold. But the profound truth is, you are finally becoming whole, because genuine connection cannot be built upon a foundation of self-abandonment. You must show up as your authentic self, even when it feels inherently risky. And through that process, you will grasp a profound realization. The peace you tirelessly sought to create externally was residing within you all along. You simply needed to cease betraying yourself to discover it. So, when that familiar impulse arises to mend everything, to satisfy everyone, to smooth over every rough edge, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, what does my truth require of me right now? Because that voice, the quiet one buried beneath years of compliance, is the voice of your freedom. You no longer need to stifle it. You no longer need to apologize for it. You simply need to listen, and perhaps for the very first time, believe it. Because your intrinsic worth was never measured by the extent of peace you maintained for others. It is measured by the magnitude of truth you can uphold within yourself. Therefore, cease striving for perfection. Cease endeavoring to be easygoing. begin striving to be real. You deserve relationships that do not demand constant performance. You deserve a sense of peace that is not contingent on silence. You deserve to exist without diminishing yourself, because love in its purest manifestation does not demand your disappearance. It invites you to return fully, honestly, and unapologetically to yourself. And that is the pivotal moment you cease being an appeaser and recommence being an authentic person.